What is up, friends? Rob here, the Medicare minister, and I'm back with a brand new Spitting Fire Leadership podcast. I'm with my man, Pete Fournier, and he is going to bring some serious fire today. Pete, will you say, hey, what's up to everyone?
What is up, everybody? So happy to be on here, Rob. I appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. I am super excited. I've been wanting to have you on here for a long time, but before we dive into that today, as always, I want to remind all of you to like, subscribe, comment, make sure you click that little notification bell because we drop new leadership podcast interviews every single Wednesday. And I definitely don't want you to miss this one as well as the other ones that are going to be coming down through the pipeline soon. So, Pete, man, I'm so glad that you're here today. You're a busy guy. I know you travel a lot. Thank you for being generous with your time. And what I always like to do when we start off with these is, can you give us that Sports Center highlight version of your story? Tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit of that transition, and then what are you doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. So in December, it'll be 11 years that I've started in the industry. I started back in college when I didn't have all this gray hair lurking around. That's what insurance will do to you.
Right.
And I started at two captives, went independent in late 2012. Was at a pretty massive IMO for then, specializing in mostly life insurance and annuities. And then found my home at Innovative Financial Group a little over 2 years ago, just getting into the Medicare space, nowhere near you guys, but swimming my way through that adventure. But for the latter part of my career, now I'm cross-selling everything from group benefits to Medicare to ACA to life to annuities. But for the better part of a decade, I was strictly life and annuity driven.
Gotcha. You know, I've heard you speak a few times. And of course, you even came here to the big city of Tupelo and did some sales training for us. And that was awesome. But one of the stories that you shared, or part of your story, I should say, was when you were in a particular organization, built a downline, and unfortunately, as you well know, a lot of that debt rolls up when it goes bad. But you talked about how you fought yourself out of that. And so one of the things that I really like to focus on this leadership podcast is, what does it take for someone to go, you know what, I started this dream, everything's going good, and all of a sudden I'm just getting flanked by bad debt. What was in you, I should say, that said, you know what, I can do this and I can overcome this. And I know one day I can be where I'm at, where you're at now.
I think part of it was I had a decent amount of success. Like, I wasn't making millions by any means at 22 years old, but I was doing pretty well. And the business itself is not easy, right? It's not easy to call people. It's not easy to show up at people's houses, but it's a really simple process when you break it down. So making money out of simplicity, hey, call the leads, show up, sell people what they need. You're not selling big Pens or Ferraris or whatever, right? Everyone's a prospect. Knowing that, it was worth it to crawl my way out of almost $50,000 in debt. Yeah. In late 2012, I hired some bad apples, didn't realize the risks associated with that. And they crushed me over a 2 or 3 month period. So I was flipping Pokemon cards and selling shoes and all kinds of crap just so I didn't have to leave the industry, because I knew of the potential. You know, no offense to anybody outside of insurance, right? People make big money everywhere. Yeah. But I firmly believe that this is the simplest industry to make long-term wealth. So I think just having that mindset, I knew I needed to get out of it. I knew it was going to suck. But in the grand scheme of things, you know, being broke and trying to claw my way out of it for 16 to 18 months, in the grand scheme of your career, is not really a long time. Now, when you're in it, it feels like forever. But after the fact, hindsight, it really wasn't that bad.
So let me ask you this for those that are watching, because I always say it this way. Of course, I'm a person of faith, hence the Medicare minister part of it. But even let's just take the faith out of it for a minute. I tell people, I believe the best work that is done in us and through us is in those hard seasons. Okay, $50,000 or over $50,000 of debt. What do you think that did to you for you to become the Pete that you are today?
Yeah, nothing else was hard, Rob, right? Like after the
That's good.
fact, once you got out of it, man, you'd have bad weeks. And I was actually in Atlanta. We missed you guys, but I was down there with
Yeah.
Steven and Seth and them.
Yeah.
And one of the agents came up to me and he was like, man, you are always happy. Like, what the hell? And I was like, yeah, I mean, you don't see me at home, right?
Yeah. Right.
You get off the rails a little bit, you get a
Right.
little negativity and you got to reshape the clock. But I'm always that way now because nothing's as difficult as that 16 to 18 month span of time that I had. So you get 10 no's in a row prospecting, or you got to go out and door knock one day because your schedule falls apart, or it's raining on you for 2 straight weeks in North Carolina because the weather's so wacky and you're out in the field. Like, nothing is worse than I make a joke at like every conference. My wife now, my girlfriend at the time, we played Netflix and chill for like 18 months because we had no freaking money, right? Like I had a post on Facebook like 2 days ago. Our vacation was like going to the shore for 3 days. Like that was our year vacation, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, once a year, go to the shore for that 18-month span. And that was it. So that shit sucked, right? So compared to anything else, I mean, it's really not that bad. It's all mindset. You really have to believe in yourself at the end of the day, which I think some people have some problems with, you know?
Yeah. No, and I'm glad you bring that up, man. That's spitting some serious fire early on here because, you know, I'm a motivational guy. I'm a hype guy. I'm a real high energy guy, but I've studied successful people. And the one thing that I've learned when I see people like you and others who are leading at a top level and having success at that next level is that you guys have cultivated habits and disciplines and rituals that when the motivation or the inspiration's low, you're so used to doing that by routine that even when the storms come, even in the valleys, you guys are doing the same things. And I love what you said. It doesn't mean that you're a robot and never have those binge watch days and, comfort food days, but it just means you don't stay there. You snap yourself out of it. And you're a disciplined guy. You're a routine guy. I've been through some of your training and I love what you do. So let's stay there for a minute. How has habits and disciplines and having those rituals in place help you sustain the success that you're having?
Yeah, so I think scheduling or having a routine or whatever, although it can get mundane every once in a while, it's really good from a positivity and a mindset standpoint because math cannot lie to you, right?
That's
so
good.
If you're out selling and 2 days a week you're calling no matter what for 8 hours, 4 days a week you're in the field, you can't screw up over the course of a year if you stick to it. You could have a bad week. You could have a bad month. You're not going to have a bad 12 months, right? Same thing with anything. It could be health related, right? I cheat when we're on these travel trips and I have a big ribeye steak or whatever, but at home, I'm eating salad. I'm using my NutriBullet. I'm working out. And if you keep that maintenance going, you can cheat every once in a while and it's okay. But over the course of that 12-month time, I know I'm not going to get unhealthy. I'm not going to get sick, knock on wood, especially with everything going on right now, right? So it's not just necessarily business. If you have a structure to your entire life, everything's going to play out for the good, right? It's people that get off the rhythm that they're like, oh, why am I in this slump? It's not a slump. It's just a bad week, month, quarter, whatever, but you'll dig your way out if you stay the course.
Sure. No. And I want to stick with that, that lane for a minute. This vein is with IFG, you are basically traveling around the country and you're training, right?
Yeah.
What is your official title with IFG?
President of Sales.
Okay. So you're doing a lot of training and it seems like you're having a lot of fun with it when you're doing some of the videos that you post and things, you get excited about it. As you're riding with these people that you're training, what are some of the top obstacles that you see within them? Like maybe they're not where you're at yet. Is it just lack of belief in themselves, not wanting to bet on themselves? Is it just themselves getting in their own way? Or what do you see in there when you're out in the field?
Yeah, so 99% of the time it is belief in oneself. I've had a couple recent new hires that, man, they've been in it for like a week and a half, brand new in the industry. And I'm like, here's the leads, dial the leads, and, writing 6,000-7,000 in life insurance because they don't know any better. Full blown belief. This is going to work. Pete says it's going to work. The end. I got other agents, and this is kind of why everybody's got their own little quirks. I don't like field training anymore because I get in a car with somebody and they get nervous or they're saying what they think I want to hear. They don't believe that they're going to be effective, whatever. Man, I will come and do a mindset or an actual strategy session with your office and everything like that. But at the end of the day, I can't believe it for you. Motivation is great. But if you don't believe it yourself, there's only so far all my tactics and strategies and cute little closes and everything are going to take you. Otherwise, you can't do it, right? Yeah. So it starts and ends with you.
Yeah, no, I love that. And someone who's been in the insurance industry for about 7 years myself, I've had to learn how to humble myself. I share this story and have on several interviews is that, you know, I'm 47. I just turned 47. Justin Brock's 33. And a lot of people wouldn't have humbled themselves to come learn from someone younger than them. But when you see someone have the success and the momentum, he's an innovator, a risk taker. I'm like, listen, sign me up for the humble train because I want to be on that guy's level. And I think so many people rob themselves of success if they would just humble themselves and go, listen, I don't know everything. Listen, this for whoever's watching today, this is gold that Pete's dropping. Maybe you just need to do this. Throw away the key, and you just need to humble yourself and learn from people like Pete and the Justins and the others in the industry, because your breakthrough could be on the other side of you just humbling yourself. Do you agree with that, Pete?
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, I'm constantly learning on a daily basis. There are too many, especially in the insurance industry. There's too many products. There's too many pitches. There's too many closes. There's too many ways to sell something. You can't know everything. It's impossible. Now, I firmly believe I'm the best in the business for life. But I came and train with you guys on Medicare. I've been on calls with Brock being like, how the hell do I write this? Like, whatever. I'm not stupid. I'm going to learn from the expert in the space. And it's kudos to you because I've seen your personal success and the team success from med subs to cross-selling annuities. Now you guys are starting to blow it up on the life train. Like it all comes together. But if you feel like you have everything hunky-dory, you're going to plateau real fast, right? And if you're okay plateauing, that's your own prerogative, but get out of our way, right? You should always be learning and be on that humble train.
So as someone who is this VP of sales, traveling across the country, meeting with people, as I said, when I see some of your content, it looks like you're having fun and you're excited. What kind of fulfillment does that bring you when you're able to make an impact in a new agent's or maybe even a seasoned agent's life and you see them to begin to have a breakthrough in their success?
You know, I don't have the same story like everybody else. I had some decent mentors like along the lines, right? Like shout out to Sam, who was my previous upline and stuff like that. Like I had some decent people in my life. I had some terrible uplines too.
Yeah, we've all been there.
But I had some decent ones to kind of help shape me along the way. And I think that's the most important outside of like belief and you have to do it. You can live and die by your organization or your upline, specifically your manager, right? Every organization, you can make money anywhere. But the person that's physically responsible for not only you emotionally, but also financially can make or break you. So like I tell every one of our agents, whether they're mine directly, they're part of the partnership, whatever, the easiest way to get a hold of me is via text. I'm never going to ignore your text, right? I might be on a Zoom call or a podcast or something like that, but please reach out because I will support you in any way, shape, or form. And I love doing it because your wins are my wins. I only make a dime when you make $1 anyway. I can't let you fail, right? So I think that support system is so unbelievably important. And unfortunately, prior to like Cody, you guys, a couple other mainstream people that are making kind of insurance cool again, I would say 10, 20 years ago, no one had any of this. Everyone was on an island. You were your own support staff. You either figured it out or you got out of the industry. And like I said in the beginning, I think this is the simplest way to build wealth for yourself from the longevity standpoint. So that's where it comes from for me. Like, you take someone that's making 30, 40 grand a year and they make 80 their first, right? I try not to overpromise. You could make $120, $150 your first year, but you take someone from like 30 to 80 and they're like, thank you so much. It's amazing. That feels so good. Now multiply that by 1,000 agents. You can't ever be upset. right? You're in a positive mind frame all the time. It feels so good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. I mean, I oversee about 5 agents here in our office, and a lot of them I've recruited just from the ministry space, and to see them just go from 40,000 a year. And there again, if you're watching and that's your happiness level and that's what you want, hey, that's great. But to see these guys, one of our guys, our newest guys, his goal was to make more than his wife. His wife was a registered nurse, and he did that in 4 months.
Unreal.
And to me, that's just like, wow, that brings you just this, you go home and you're just like, wow, I had a small part in that, was able to disciple and mentor that person into that. And real quickly, I want to transition, but before I do, because you have to do this sometimes because people want to know they're talking to someone who knows what they're doing. Give me some of your best numbers, because you've shared them here in our office and you've shared them on stage, but give me some of your best numbers so people go, hey, this guy Pete knows what he's talking about.
Sure. A couple of my accolades for myself: consistently writing $400,000 or $500,000 a year when I was full-time in the field. Some of the breakdown numbers: a few summers ago, I tried to do 100,000 in 100 days with no leads. So I didn't buy one lead, just warm market referrals. I wrote 88.7, so I failed, but failed pretty successfully for a summer.
Oh yeah, that's a good fail.
Best week in the industry was 37.7 issue paid over a 7-day period. And June was my best accomplishment ever. I said I was going to write 100,000, and then I upped it to 150, because you always shoot for the moon and land on the stars, right? It's corny, but it works. Yeah. So shot the goal for 150. I wrote 115,000. One policy fell off, so about 112 issue paid. 9 Medicare apps and 120,000 in annuities in the 30-day period. Man. So big June. Big June.
Yeah, no, that's a big June. And like I said, I bring that up because I want people to know what this guy's saying is legit. Like, he's bringing true fire today. He's been in the trenches. He knows what he's talking about. So if you're watching this today, keep taking notes. I always tell people, if you don't have a notepad, I mean, I'm taking notes right now as I'm listening, because I want to grow as well. Let me ask you this, Pete. How would you define success today? What does success mean to you?
For myself, it's financial freedom, not only for me, but my future family. So I don't have kids yet, right? My parents did a really good job with me growing up. We were upper middle class until I was about, I would say 13, 14. Mm-hmm. My dad had a really good corporate job, and then they got bought out by another company, and he got a 1-year severance, and that was that, right? So I saw, like, I was getting PlayStation and whatever I wanted for Christmas, right? I grew up pretty well. No Lamborghinis or anything like that, but we were comfortable. Yeah. And then it was like socks and underwear, you know? Yeah. So I saw that, and my parents did everything in their power to sustain our way of life, but it was definitely hard throughout, you know, my high school, college, et cetera. So for me, I don't necessarily want to spoil my future kids or grandkids or anything like that, but I don't want them to want for anything. And that's kind of the reason why I stayed in this business, because of the renewals and residual income and everything like that. But everybody needs to take that success word with a grain of salt, because just like Rob asked me, it has to be your definition. That's right. Great. I like watches. I like cars, right? I like living a lavish lifestyle. Yeah. That might not be your level of success. Your level of success might be, I want to work half the time and make double the money. I want to go from 40 to 80 and spend more time with my family. Yeah. Do it, right? But write it out, right? What's your definition? And me is, I want to provide generational wealth for my family. And that way, illness, right? If my kids want to attend Harvard and they're dumb as dirt, maybe they don't want to go to school at all, right? I want to be nimble in my life, and I don't want to have to go backwards and say, no, you can't, or no, we can't do this, or can't buy that, or, you know, you can't go to summer camp, or whatever the hell it might be, right? Sure. So that's my definition, is I don't really want them to want for anything. No, and I agree. I think it's a subjective term, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody's got to have your big, compelling reasons why, right? That hold everything up. And so, no, I love that. So let me ask you this. How has that definition changed, or maybe matured or evolved from 20-something-year-old Pete to 30-something-year-old Pete? Yeah, man, it definitely matured, because I was full blown in it for the money when I first started. You know, I jumped my like first full year. I probably made like 106 and probably spent like 112, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
you're just
Yeah.
an idiot.
Yeah.
Um, and it's slowly, as I matured more as a person, as I matured more in my relationship, you start to talk about getting engaged and living together and marriage and stuff like that. Your why gets much, much bigger. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to deal with age, right? I've
Right.
recruited some 40 somethings, some 50 somethings,
Yeah.
and they're still clooneying it and living the bachelor lifestyle.
Right. Yeah.
You're allowed to be selfish initially,
Yeah.
but if that's the case and you feel like you've been selfish and you're buying Rolexes and nice cars and you have a good lifestyle, think bigger now. When you get to that point where you're doing well for you, how do you do well for others? Because again, you don't want to level up and plateau and just stay there. Because as a single dude, you could be comfortable with a lot of stuff, right? But if you don't start expanding that why, now you don't have to be a girl or guy and get married and have kids if you don't want to. Your why could be donating to a church or an organization, or you want to pass something off or build a school, whatever it is. Just make it something larger than yourself. So you have to keep leveling up and increasing your goals and numbers and all that stuff. Otherwise, you're just going to level out.
No, I totally agree. Was there a particular event or maybe a mentor? I know you mentioned one earlier, but was there something in your life over these past few years that maybe what caused a paradigm shift, maybe getting around a mentor who said, hey, Pete, you're doing great, but you could do this, or maybe a book that you read or something that maybe happened in your life that kind of sped that process up a little bit?
Yeah, I gotta give it to Grant Cardone, like him or not, right? I paid $10,000 for an hour with the dude. This was years ago. Now it's like 50,000 or something crazy. This was a long time ago. And just as a side note to this, invest in yourself, people, personal development, coaching, books, everything. And there's a budget for everybody. A $9 book could make you $1 million. A $10,000 coaching call could make you $1 million, right? Invest at your own level, make it comfortable, but make sure you're investing in yourself. Yep. So I kept seeing his ads, following his podcast, all that stuff. And I was like, screw it, I'm going to do this. And Meg supported the decision. We went down to Miami for 4 days, treated it like a little baby vacation because I was starting to make some really solid money. This was probably in 2017. Right. And I felt like I was getting to that point where I was like, man, I'm really comfortable. Like I'm doing pretty damn well.
Yeah.
How do I get out of this? And Grant gave me a lot of good nuggets when I was down there, but he's as real as you can get. You know, him and Brad Lee are like, they pull no punches.
Right.
And Grant was like, dude, when you want to have a family or you have an organization in mind that you want to donate to, because he donates millions to charity just because, right? When you have something greater than yourself, you're broke as hell right now. You can't do anything for anybody else. And that's super selfish. And I was like, geez, right? You feel like a scumbag at the end.
Right.
But it forces you to level up to something that you can't even believe was possible at that point. So that was a real reality check for me. Like, all right, you got a girlfriend, you're going out to fancy dinners, you're doing all this stuff, you can afford Christmas presents for your family. That's all well and good. What are you going to do when you get to this level and this level and this level? Like you're selfish as hell right now. If someone in your family got sick, you wouldn't be able to support them. And I was like, oh man, like that's a completely different level of thinking that most people don't even get to that, right? Your mind is not expanding outside of yourself. And don't feel bad about that. Mine was like that too. I didn't get the reality check until I paid 10 G's to get it, right? So I think that was super important for me. And that was about 4.5, 5 years ago, a little bit less.
And it's interesting. I love once again, bro, you're spitting some serious fire here. I agree. Like even 8%, which you've spoken at, I've been in for the past 2 years. I have a notebook full of nuggets that I took away and I came and implemented. Even your training that when you came down here and gave us your Sling It training on the program that you put together for life insurance. I mean, one of our agents, especially here, has taken it and is sold more life insurance than anyone in our agency. And so I think it's a great point that you just never know when a Pete or a Grant or a Cody or whoever it may be, they may say, drop that one nugget that causes a paradigm shift in you that allows you to go to that next level of success. So I definitely love what you're saying there. And so to stay in that just real quickly,
Yeah.
obviously having a mentor is important. You know, I know there's some people that say they kind of downplay it. Some people maybe overhype it. But for me, when I look back over my life, having various mentors in different seasons, I go, man, that was a huge plus for me. Tell us what a mentor is to you.
Yeah. So I have a couple for a couple different things, right? One who's really personal to me is my dad. And I use him as kind of a sounding board, right? He's less risk adverse than I am. I will take the plunge and spend money on dumb shit. And if it doesn't work, like whatever, I messed up, right?
Right.
So he's a little bit more reserved in that aspect, but I always looked up to him in terms of trying to be nimble, decision-making processes, life events, stuff like that. Monetarily speaking, I have people that have net worths that are 10, 20, 50 times mine. And I think that's important too. Like you will have people in your life that you will supersede them. Maybe they were your mentor the first 5 years of your career.
Right.
And now you need someone else to get to that next level. Don't throw that person aside because they did a lot for you, right? And you can use them as a sounding board too. But there's got to be a combination. And I don't think you should have one, right? You may have your pastor, right? For religious purposes. You may have a family member for life purposes. You'll have a business coach for making millions, right? You'll have a sales coach if you're in that realm. You might have a business coach if you own a company and you're dealing with P&L statements and hiring and firing and all this stuff. So there's no real reason to have one specific mentor. And I think people get trapped with that. Like, oh, let me pick one person and run down that way. You should have them for different segments of your life because I think that's super important. And they will have such a clear, distinct purpose for you if you categorize them, right? Because that guy that's teaching you how to make $100 million may have been through 16 divorces,
right?
Whatever, right? So you don't want him for your marriage coach, that's for sure, right? So I think it's important to have a few, and some I get to talk to every day. Some I pay once a month for a call or two, right? But they all have their different unique aspects for my life.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice, Pete. You know, I tell our sales team, you know, over the past few years, I've outgrown that circle that I had. And we've all heard it, and it sounds corny and cliche, and we've heard it a million times. You're the sum total of 5 people.
100%.
Most, but it's the truth, right? And some of you watching this are giving VIP access to people that shouldn't have VIP access anymore. As Pete said, it's not that they're bad. You don't throw them the curve and big F you, get out of my life. You know, it just means that where I'm going, I've outgrown that space. And they can still be that sounding board. We can still go out to eat. We can still binge watch, if you will, together. But if I'm going to go to that next level, I need people like Pete and others who are already there, okay, or who have been there or at least ahead of me to disciple me and pour into my life so I can get to that level too. So I love that. And I love the fact that you said, you know, you don't want someone coaching you. They may make millions of dollars, but, you know, if they got 20 mistresses, that's probably not the best person to go to for marriage or, you know, monogamy, you know, type advice. And so I totally agree with that. Let me ask you this, and I ask everyone that comes on the podcast this.
Sure.
If there was one word that you would use to describe Pete, what would that one word be?
Persistence, 100%. You can ask Tyler, you can ask my parents from when I was a baby, you can ask Meg. I'm persistent as all hell, whether it comes to sales or getting what I want. I just don't stop. And there's no real reason to. I mean, the way it's a combination of nature versus nurture. I think I was wired this way, but I also think things in my life really propelled me to where I'm at so far. And there's so much more still to go. But man, if you're not persistent, you're just, I don't know, laying dormant, you know, there's no real reason not to be.
Yeah. And so you could definitely see that persistence has contributed big time to your success, right? I mean, if you're over $50,000 in bad debt roll up, you got to be persistent to climb your way out of that.
Yeah.
Is
A
it,
lot of people. Oh, sorry, Rob.
no,
A
go
lot of
ahead.
people too will take persistence kind of negatively in terms of like, well, how much could you possibly want? How far could you possibly go? I shared a cool shameless plug for SWAT because I'm speaking
Yeah.
at that at the end of the
Yeah.
month. But I went to SWAT the last time, and it was probably I don't know, back in April, and I wrote a goal for myself. I'm a big watch guy, right? And goal for myself, they had goal sheet for 10 years, 5 years, a year, right? 6 months, next month, or whatever. And in the next month one, I put, I want a solid gold Rolex. Never had one before. That was really cool. Want one, right? And I had that thing in like 22 days,
Wow.
right? So mapping that out and being persistent going towards that goal, it might have been 45 to 32 or whatever the ratio was, but it was a hell of a lot faster than I thought I was going to get it.
Right.
Um, because I'm constantly running down that, and all of those little things. I mean, your brain is so crazy. I wish I could be a billionaire already and then analyze how our human brain works, because I think
Right.
it's so amazing. You
Right.
can have, at least I feel like I have all of those little nuances in the back of my brain every single day. I'm like solid goal watch, generational wealth, happy marriage, new house, car. I want to take a vacation in 3 weeks. Like all of this stuff is constantly running through my brain, and that's where the persistence comes from.
No, and I love what you said there at the end, because I kind of get geeked out on the way the human psychology and thoughts and brain. And I watch a lot of Ed Milet, and he does this
Yeah.
one where he talks about that we have 75,000 thoughts a day, but 90% of them are the same ones on repeat. And it's important that we write down our goals because we want our thoughts to serve us, not the other way around, right? And a lot of times
Amazing.
when you don't have your goals written down, your mind's just going everywhere. You're just kamikaze, don't really have any definitive purpose. So let me just stay there with you for a second, because, full transparency, I struggled as a person to write my goals down for years. I didn't think I needed to do that because I've always been driven, determined. But I noticed when I started journaling, and when I started writing my goals down, and I put it in my phone because I look at this thing a billion times a day,
Yeah.
I noticed that those things started manifesting quicker in my life. And that's really what you're saying. What was a big paradigm shift for you in writing down goals? Was it something that someone said? Is it just, event you attended, or?
Meg will confirm this because she could probably recite the whole movie. That entire 16, 18-month period when I was in all that debt, I probably fell asleep to The Secret on Netflix
Wow.
5 out of 7 nights a week.
Wow.
Just like either watched the whole thing and got through it or fell asleep midway through. But that thing was on in the background at least once a day, because you're 50K in debt on top of your bills. Luckily, I got to move back in with my parents. Thank you, mom and dad, for that.
Right.
But like, still your car payment, your leads, your food, all of that stuff. So it's 50K on top of that. I was in a depressive state a little while, and our relationship was pressed by it. I mean, I lost friends over it because I was like, hey, man, I can't talk to you for the next 40 days because I got to go write business. So that manifestation that you just mentioned and the law of attraction and everything, I'm a 1000% believer in that. So I think that whole debt period, since then, I waver. I don't write them down every day. I should. There's been days where I miss and I'm like, shit, and I get mad at myself for a second, right? But for the most part, I would say about 80% of days I'm writing them down. I'll share a cool one with you if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So we're working with Brad Lee pretty intensely, both on Lightspeed, on the insurance aspect. I look up to the guy, huge mentor, right? Grant at that coaching call told me that I should start looking at a training, maybe VT or something like that, right? Reach out to my buddy, Brad. I never did it. I was a huge pansy. I was like, why would this dude answer my email? Like, just never did. Dumb, right? Didn't believe in myself. Stupid. So I started listening to Dropping Bombs as soon as I found that podcast, right? Listening to it. And then I started writing down, I want to meet this guy. I want to meet this guy. I want to meet this guy. And there was one day, a year and a half ago, I slid into his DMs and I asked him something about Lightspeed because we incorporated it for IFG as a university.
Right.
He answered in like 5 minutes. And I was like, damn it. Because like years back, I could, right? Yeah. So he was like, why don't you guys come out and film some extra content? Maybe we'll get you on the podcast, whatever. And I was like that works. And then at 8-Figure Mastermind, I was side by side doing a breakout session with them in May. So like, it may not be next week, next month, next year, but over the course of a 4 or 5 year period, all that stuff came to fruition and I got to check it off the list, which is unbelievable. Like, you want to talk about a feeling of accomplishment and true happiness. When you write down stupid, crazy goals that people think are insane, and then you're able to go back to the notebook and put a giant line through it and then upgrade it, you like want to cry. You feel so good.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up, man. Incredible story. And that's what's insane, because even in my phone, as you were saying that, one of the goals that I wrote down about 2 years ago, and like most people, we've all done it. We put it on the back burner. We think, other things get in the way. But one of my goals back then was I wanted to have a leadership podcast where I interviewed top leaders. I had your name down. I have Cody's is still, down, and others, Josh Lustig, and all of these things have come to fruition. And I didn't even really know you 2 years ago, but I just believed in the law of attraction. I believed in writing my goals down, and I can show people, it's in my phone where I said, I'm going to interview this person, this person, this person, this person, this person. And all these people are coming to fruition, but it's because, like you said, not perfect, right? I'm not looking for perfection, but if I can progress 1% every day, get better somehow, some way. And I'm reviewing these things as Pete's talking about, those things will begin to manifest in your life if you're taking massive action. If you're betting on yourself and believing in yourself. So thank you for sharing that story. Well, as we wrap up today, I interview different people in different space, mainly in the insurance space, because that's what we're in, whether it's Medicare, life insurance, whatever, but also in the home-based business space, faith-based space, and some others. But what if there's someone out there today, Pete, just final words of wisdom? What if there's someone out there who's just, they're almost there to bet on themselves. They want to go, they want to do something with their life. What is a piece of advice or some wisdom that you would give just an entrepreneur, let's say, who's just wanting to take a risk on themselves? What are some words of wisdom that you would give?
So I never thought of it as a backup plan. I always knew I could get a corporate job, right, and go sell ice to an Eskimo if I really needed to, or do anything else. And I did that. I did it when I was in debt. I took on W-2s and did all these side hustles and stuff because I had to. Always remember that if there's something that you want to do that's entrepreneurial, you want to be in it for yourself, and whether that's insurance, real estate, you want to open an ice cream shop, I don't care. You can always go back to what you're doing now. You can always go back, right? If you're working a W-2 and you're making 30 grand a year and you think you're worth more than that, and you jump into real estate and whatever, and 10 years from now, you're not making any more than you were, either one, you can go back to what you were doing, or two, maybe you won't because you're making the same amount of money, but you're happier and you're doing it for yourself. There's no reason that you shouldn't jump into it. You could give me any reason under the sun and I will rebut it for you. I promise. You can reach out to me on social media and be like, hey, I really want to be a Cirque du Soleil dancer. Go do it, right? Who cares? Go do it. There's no reason not to.
And I love that, because I tell people this all the time. You got to do what you got to do. If you got to work 3 W-2s while you're trying to become an entrepreneur, do what you got to do. It's like there's no shame in the game. Just take massive action and go towards that goal. So I definitely love what you're saying. And just kind of a sidetrack, and then we'll come and end this thing. Why are so many people scared to bet on themselves? What have you seen in your journey?
I really don't get it. I think it's a lot of societal norms mixed with whatever their nurture was, right? I mean, you think about it and these aren't my words, like Brad said this, Grant said this, even John has said this. Like, we go to school from the age of like 4 till some of us 22, some 26, 28. You want to be a cardiologist, you're in school till you're freaking 30. We're like indoctrinated in this thought process of you got to get an A, and then you got to get an entry-level job, and you got to work your ass off, and you got to work your way up the corporate ladder, and hopefully your boss dies and you get to become your boss.
Right.
What the hell? Like,
Right.
you know? So I think it's not always their fault. They just have to break through what they were taught for X amount of years. Or it could be their family. Like sometimes you got to say, like, you know, with all due respect, F off, mom and dad, or aunt and uncle, or grandma, grandpa, right?
Yeah.
Just because they didn't do it doesn't mean that you don't have to. I think Jim Carrey talks about that all the time. Like his dad could have been a really awesome comedian and more famous than Jim Carrey could have been, but he just never did it. Right. And like, that sucks, right? And the one thing I've told Ali Saleh this, I said it on Cody's podcast, the one thing I'm terrified of is dying, right? I'm petrified of death. I don't know why. I grew up Catholic. I still believe in God, all this stuff. I don't want to die, ever. Like I'd be a vampire if I could.
Yeah.
But the one thing I know we're all going to, so the one thing is I don't want to have one freaking regret when that day comes.
That's good.
And I don't think you should either.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man, that's like lightning round fire at the end, Pete. That's awesome. No, I totally agree, man. I tell my kids all the time, I just don't want to be 60 years old and go, what if I would have done that? You know what I mean? Because I truly believe in failing forward. I believe entrepreneurs get that. We understand it's all part of the process. If we miss it, we miss it. So what? We learn from it, we recycle it, and we move on. And what Pete is saying is maybe you're drinking the wrong Kool-Aid today, right? You need to get around a different group of people that are pouring some different Kool-Aid, the entrepreneur Kool-Aid, the next level Kool-Aid. And I agree, man. I think the number one killer of people's dreams are their family and their friends. And no offense to our families and friends, we love you, but you're haters sometimes, you're dream killer sometimes. So I totally get that. So tell us where we can find you. I know you're going to be speaking at SWAT. I know you spoke at 8%. You're traveling across the country, but tell us where we can find you online. Yeah, so PeteFournier.com. Pete, F as in Frank, O-U-R, and as in Nancy, I-E-R, right? That's my phone skills right there. PeteFournier.com. I'm Peter J. Fournier on all forms of social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Friend me, hit me up, follow me, whatever you want to do. Upcoming stuff, I got SWAT at the end of this month. Not just for insurance people. It's great for insurance people, but it's just awesome sales training in general. I'll be on that 8% Roadshow with your man, Justin Brock, and Cody and Roger Short, traveling to a city near you. So go to CodyAskins.com/road to see where we're going to be at. And then Medicare Con, which you'll be at in April. So if you're in the Medicare or the insurance space in general, make sure you hit up Medicare Con. Sure. And you're doing coaching too, right? I mean, you got coaching going on.
Yeah. If you need help, especially in the insurance space, although I've done real estate agents, contractors, et cetera, but especially if you're in the real estate space, go to PeteFournier.com. I got standalone products on there if you want to utilize those. If you want one-on-one time, I'd love to help you. I can come out and train your agency. Whatever you need, I'll be your Swiss Army knife. But I just want everyone to succeed because, like I said in a million times, this business is too freaking simple not to.
Yeah. And listen, guys, I'm telling you, Pete's the real deal. Even before I got to know him and I would send him emails and reach out to him, he always responded really fast. He was always so generous. I love meeting people that don't have a scarcity mindset. And listen, I want to end this by saying this. I believe that all of you were made on purpose for a purpose. I truly believe that. I believe that all of you watching this deserve to win. You know, all of you deserve to win. But here's the thing. As Pete said, we can't give you our belief. It's a personal thing. You got to believe and believe for yourself that you deserve to win. So as always, I pray that this has put fresh wind in your sails. I pray that it's pushed you one more day to go after your dreams, to live on purpose and become the person that I know that all of you were created and destined to be. Listen, God bless you guys. Pete, thank you so much for being on today. And we will talk to you guys soon.